up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, as we are live here on another episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us part of your day. It is about that time, folks, because middle of the week, starting tomorrow, Cowboys and Eagles, Friday, Chiefs and Chargers, a whole entire Sunday slate, and then Vikings and Bears on Monday. It is so good for the NFL to finally be back. I am happy and excited about it. And Jake's Prime Predictions, the first week of 2025, I'm excited for it. You'll get a chance to see my picks up from here. It's going to be a fun one here in tonight's show. But I do want to recap. Friday's going to be a fun show because we do have Wendell Davis, former collegiate linebacker. He's going to be joining us to recap more about it. But I want to start off with this because we had an absolute crazy college football. We had an entire slate of college football games that were just absolutely insanity. And I am just like, I'm absolutely happy that we got college football back. Week 2 is going to be up and upon us. But I do want to start with this. Usually in week 1s, and that's everywhere, college and the NFL, okay, majority of the time, you don't always start off the greatest, okay? And usually it takes time to learn a playbook, put together schemes, and just really get everything to fit. So I'm going off of that Texas and Ohio State game, okay? And listen, it was by far a great day for defense. By the way, Matt Patricia at Ohio State, former NFL coach, the guy knows what he's doing as far as being a defensive coordinator in college, and it looked superb. By the way, Julian Sayin didn't even look that bad. He actually looked pretty good from some of these decent throws. But the talk was about Arch Manning's, it was his performance. Arch looked completely awful. Now, I'm going to give Arch a little bit of grace because usually in week 2s are your get-right games. And the sake of it, Alabama had a tough week against Florida State, and we'll get into that a little bit here later on the show. But Arch, I mean, the thing is, I put 2 people accountable for Texas's loss 14-7 against Ohio State at the shoe. Number 1, I'm holding Arch accountable to a certain extent because there were reads, there were throws that were overthrown and underthrown, and some of those reads he completely missed at. Like, what are you doing? And usually what happens is that a quarterback that gets frantic like that usually makes a ton of mistakes. It just happens. So to me, Arch has to clean this stuff up. There's no excuses up for there. And he's been in this program for the last couple years now. You've had time to learn the playbook. Yes, there are times where you get many reps in practice, many reps have been in the games, but Arch has to play better than that. I mean, that was by far god-awful and atrocious. The other person I am holding accountable is Sark, because you do not pull back your quarterback to get him back in line, complete the simple stuff, get on the script, and then you could start throwing in some tricky plays here and there. He didn't do none of that. And that's where it drives me crazy with Sark, because he's not taking accountability for his quarterback. And yes, Arch is bound to have a bad game. You're on the road in Columbus. You're out there in the shoe. Of course it's going to be a hard environment. But the truth is that you've had plenty of time to be hanging around with this kid when it came to recruitment, when it came to practices and everything. And Sark not even willing to pull back his quarterback to complete the simple stuff. He's just sitting there on the sidelines. There's nothing happening. And that's where I'm like, that's what drives me crazy about Sark. So, I mean, again, both of them had such a bad time. It was a bad day, and it's week one. What the entire college football world was trying to prove, what exactly is Arch? Is Arch prepared to go into the shoe against Ohio State, defending national champions, and with Ryan Day having a really good defensive coordinator and Matt Patricia, who's been in the NFL and now is in college and he's putting together really good schemes, are you going to trust Arch that he's going to be like that? Because a lot of analysts and a lot of former players, a lot of people had Arch this high. And usually when you have a lot of those high expectations, of course, quarterbacks will feel those pressures. I'm not going to completely bury Texas. Neither am I burying Arch Manning. I don't think it's fair. He had an off game. But the only thing is that in this get-right game for Arch Manning, it doesn't matter what your name is. Complete the simple stuff, get in a rhythm and get comfortable, and then you'll be fine. It's a get-right game. There are many of them that have this. They had these problems before. And by the way, Arch only had 3 games in which he played last year that were not even close to top-tier quality, like Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, like multiple other really good top-tier programs. He did not compete in any of those. So it's going to take time, but they need to complete the simple stuff. I mean, I felt bad for the kid. He's absolutely frantic, overthrown, underthrown, and he just could not complete the simple stuff. So this I thought, which was interesting. So I'm watching the debut of Bill Belichick in Chapel Hill against TCU. What right now the narrative that seems to be coming forth is not that Bill Belichick is going to literally have this tarnished of his career as a coach in the NFL, but it does lay a brutal honesty of how we view Bill Belichick today. Because he's now a college coach. And college coaches, this is what's always true. It's usually in college football, it's classic. You're going to get those games that are going to be high pressuring. It's your first week, whether you're a new coach, new coordinators, new quarterback, new system, you're going to tend to be pretty frantic from there. It'll be very high pressuring. But the only thing is what everyone, including myself, that watches these football games are going to watch the coach to see if there's any adjustments. What's happening right now in North Carolina is that with Bill Belichick, it seems to me this coaching staff, I don't even know if it's competent. But again, it is week one. I'm not giving them a pass. I'm just cutting a little bit of slack because week ones are always unpredictable. But that game in itself, I mean, they had a run game that seemed like it was going, and then all of a sudden TCU is roadhousing North Carolina and Chapel Hill. Like this right now is looking at what is going on with Bill Belichick. Has he not pivoted and has he not figured this out by now? That's the question we're all trying to figure out, because what it's doing is it's actually fueling Tom Brady more. When watching Bill Belichick in that game, everybody's giving Bill a pass, but for coaches, and this is where it separates the boys from the men when it comes to these college coaches. Kirby Smart, you watch Dabo Sweeney, you watch Brian Kelly, you watch all these other really good coaches. Dan Lanning in Oregon. What you got to have is you got to have a third, fourth gear. If you do not have that, and if you can't even get yourself out of first or second, then you really are not going to be looked at as a serious program, let alone a serious coach in general, which a lot of these former NFL quarterback or coaches, and even for some of these former players, I mean, you watch what Deion Sanders is doing here in Colorado and Boulder, and even they got tested against Georgia Tech's defense. Like, I love their defense. The defense it's physical. They're getting after the run and the quarterback. All that's going to be tested on the line. And that's what Bill Belichick has to figure out, because a lot of this is because you got the NIL, you got the transfer portal. It's all these things that went against Nick Saban, which is what forced him to retire. So Bill's got to be able to figure that out. But the truth is, if you watch Bill as a GM, and when it comes to scouting talent, you saw with what he was with Dante Scarnicchia. And after that, he's recruiting mediocre talent on places you would never think that Bill would do. Now he's here in college football, and you got to deal with the transfer portal and the NIL and recruitment, and hoping that he can recruit the top best players in the country in a lot of these key places. Because if Bill can't figure that out, then what happens is it's going to now turn a narrative. It's going to turn a new page and talking about why once Tom left New England, Tom actually got the better end of the divorce, because he went to a team in which is competent. Bruce Arians. They already had a really good offense. The defense was going to get better. He already went to all of that. And all Tom was trying to do, and what he was harping, is he was harping for Bill to get skill players on offense. And yet Bill couldn't even do that. Can't even figure out wide receiver. Couldn't even figure out a lot of places. The last Pro Bowler ever drafted was Rob Gronkowski. And Bill could not figure that out. If it wasn't for Tom to be the master builder to the architect of who Bill is, then the building would never have even been built in the first place. I mean, you have to think with some of these companies, all of these top-notch architect companies, you got to be able to take care of your builders. Those are the ones that are sacrificing their time, their bodies, to just at least put together a masterpiece in what you've built. And everything that has been gone through from inspections and all those additions, which is what Bill's supposed to be smart to do. But if you can't seek out the best builders to accomplish your goal, the building would never pass inspections, and the building would never even be built in the first place. That's what Belichick has to do. He's sitting in this position now where the NIL and the transfer portal and what North Carolina looked like in the first drive looked like it was competent. Then completely went downhill. They lost grip. So, again, most of these coaches and these programs and a lot of these athletes, like, it's normally a pass after week 1. By week 2, it's get right weeks for some. So you're going to figure that out. Good stuff. Got a lot of news, but man, college football was just fantastic this weekend. It really showed a lot of stories about teams that are going to be up and on the uprise, and teams that are basically on the radar for a lot of people in college football, a lot of these AP poll writers, and everybody that's trying to figure out what a lot of these teams are, because I've got my 5 players. I'll post them up on my social media as well. But 5 performances I loved during the weekend. There are 5 players there. And I've got an honorable mention as well, but that's all coming up. But coming up next, this is going to be a warning sign for Alabama. And I know that they're playing Louisiana Monroe, but this is a warning sign. If they cannot get right, is Kalen DeBoer's seat really getting heated? and have the times of Nick Saban's coaching and culture build is starting to really wear on Bama fans. That's coming up next as well. Well, folks, I've got exciting news for all of you guys because the Snake Sports Talk Show is actually one of their best for all of your sports when it comes to player prop pick'em contests. Welcome and introducing you Payday Fantasy, the best way that you can get paid for player prop pick'em contests. 100% deposit bonus match up to $100, and that's all by just using Payday Fantasy. Over under prop bets of your favorite players, of the best players, to put together your daily fantasy to win you and earn you some money. And it's this simple. This is what it is. They now have just introduced the marketplace. Earn money from your entry, win or lose. All you got to do is 3 things. Okay? Number 1, make your picks like normal. 2, list your entry on the marketplace. No cost, no risk. And you get paid 5% from every copy, fade, or remix. That's your picks and your payday. Best of all, because of the new partnership, Payday Fantasy now partnered with the Snake Sports Talk Show. You now have a promo code. The promo code is SNAKE for 100% deposit match up to $100. That is with promo code SNAKE to sign you up and get paid instantly for your fantasy contest of your style, your way, your lineups. Get paid today with Payday Fantasy promo code SNAKE for your deposit. 100% match up to $100. Best deal you can get with our new partners at Payday Fantasy.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
So things are not looking really, really bright in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, after just watching what in the world I just watched against the Florida State Seminoles, who just basically, what Mike Norvell was doing against the Alabama Crimson Tide, they just basically walked on them and just kept walking on their throats. This was just a bad day for Alabama fans. It did not look pretty at all. And it sucks because it's like I had a line. All right, I had a whole line. And I was getting ready to go 3 for 3 on it. And then Alabama just lost. Really bad. Look, I know everybody in Tuscaloosa is feeling how crappy and how horrible Alabama played against Florida State. But if you look at that box score, what really took it away were the mid-quarters, second and third quarter. It was tied up and it looked competent until Florida State shut out Alabama at the half and then continued to score 7 of those points. Bama looked like they were going to be competent. And look, Ty Simpson didn't even have too terrible of a game. 23 of 43, 254 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. But Thomas Castellanos was, in fact, he was the talk. He was the talk of the game. Thomas Castellanos, 9 of 14, didn't even pass a ton. 152 passing yards, no tutties, no picks, but he did carry the ball 16 times for 78 yards and a touchdown score. It was everything that was on the ground. But what was bad about it with Alabama, if you looked at that defensive front, it was getting walked all over. And everything that was basically described was all on the defensive coordinator. That was what was being pushed. And Alabama looked embarrassed. I mean, Ryan Williams was thrown around left and right, couldn't quite gain a ton of momentum because the Florida State, their run game was so efficient. Now, I would not have my quarterback rush for 16 carries, which is what they needed to fix up. But the difference is that Florida State, they were on gear. They were not stopping running the football. They continued to run until it wore out Alabama. And that was what was the takeaway. Mike Norvell really coached up that team well. It was such a bad look for Alabama to start up week 1. And everybody's asking, what is going on with Kalen DeBoer? Everybody knows that once Nick Saban retired, and what's wearing on a lot of Bama fans is that Nick Saban had a strong culture built since he took the job. And of course, first week plays Louisiana Monroe, who is what Alabama's playing this week. Lost the first game. People did the same things with Saban, but Saban stayed on business, even at his tenure at LSU. I mean, you have to think about the days in which Urban Meyer came in at a time where everybody was all chanting Steve Spurrier at Florida and then had the same similar issues. Couldn't quite complete the passes and the simple stuff at that time and was creating the RPO offense, the whole Wildcat. And it wasn't until once a familiar name like Tim Tebow came around and Florida's program completely changed. And Urban did about practically similar things at his tenure at Ohio State. And Saban, for a long time, built together the program to be strong. Now, with Saban gone because the NIL and transfer portal completely weared on him, couldn't coach the same. And the players are shifting and moving around left and right. It's hard to keep track. So it was wearing on Saban. But now you bring in Kalen DeBoer, which the worst thing that you can have happen in this coaching staff, in this new regime, is Kalen DeBoer looking a lot like what Scott Frost looked like in Nebraska. And Scott Frost is an alumni there, which is even worse. Most people will tell you, just because you were an alumni at a certain program, you coach this team, people will think, oh, he understands the culture. He understands the program. He knows how we're running. I trust him. We'll be fine. But Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban. And I don't think he's even meant to be. Okay, let's be honest there. Kalen is meant to be his own person. People have been harping, calling for his job, trying to put a whole, they're trying to put this whole thing, putting his head on a silver platter. Like it's that bad. I don't know about you, but, again, I am not one to basically say Kalen DeBoer is not capable of this. I'm not one to say that. What I am is I will be brutally honest about a few things. So bad that the way that the way that the offense itself was playing, okay, it was terrible. It was god awful. And what I think too, what is true and what really stands out is that Kalen DeBoer didn't even make any adjustments or changes for that matter. I mean, he's just sitting there. He's just sitting there and no adjustment is coming. No adjustment is there. So that's what was the problem. That was what was driving people crazy. So I don't know. I think, what I could see with this is Kalen, he better get it right this upcoming week. He better get it right. Because if nothing else, then it's just going to get worse and worse from this point forward. It's going to get worse. And I am not about ripping most coaches because I don't think some of them really would deserve that. I'm giving him a chance to correct himself, get himself back on track, and at least make this program competent because Bama is built on successes. And Kalen does not have the type of backbone that Saban does. But I don't think that's going to matter because a lot of that is you got to shape up this program for the future. That's what I think leaves a lot of Bama fans jaded because everybody's expecting Alabama to just win all the time. Doesn't always work, but it happens. So kind of a tough break, but I thought that looked horrible on Bama's end. They were just getting mollywopped, stomped on the run game, and it did not look pretty. Let's go to the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
All right, so some news is around the league. First off, Chargers and the Chiefs Friday night. What's exciting news is the Chargers are expecting running back Najee Harris to start against the Chiefs here on Friday night in the neutral zone of Sao Paulo, Brazil. So Najee Harris was listed as having fully participated in practice. When talked about it, Jim Harbaugh said a couple comments. He says he's ready and he looks ready to go. Really hard to predict play counts. He's going to play football and have at it. That's the mindset. So Najee Harris, of course, who was sidelined because of the incident that happened on the 4th of July. It took a lot of time when it came to his eye. Harris was on the field with his teammates for a light on field work session just hours after the team arrived in Sao Paulo. In front of hundreds of reporters, Harris once again wore a helmet with a tinted visor, which has done whenever he has practiced in front of the public this summer. So, and I also went to say that Harris said on Monday that he didn't care what people think he might be doing based on the perception that he could be wearing shades to hide what he calls a superficial injury. He has participated in just 6 practices with the Chargers. I'm ramping up to it, just trying to get back in the football shape, but I'm feeling good though, and we'll just see where it leads. So good signs for the Chargers. So I expect it to where it's going to be a dual running back set between both Najee Harris and Amarian Hampton, even though I do think Amarian Hampton will get majority of those snaps. And for a lot of fantasy purposes, this was one of the hottest commodity type of duo threats in the backfield for fantasy football purposes was between Najee and Amarian Hampton, because Hampton, the young rookie out of North Carolina, and Najee for the power running and his stability, that's the stuff that a lot of fantasy owners are going to be looking at. But I do expect this to be a very good ground and pound run game, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I expect that this team and the way that this run game is really going to work out for them, I'm excited for it. Every part of it. All right, so some news on Jakobi Meyers as the Raiders take on the New England Patriots this weekend. Wide receiver Jakobi Meyers unsure how contract talks with the Raiders will play out, and as this is a wide receiver in 4 consecutive seasons who has recorded at least 800 receiving yards. So Jakobi Meyers went on and is unsure if a new contract will get done with the organization. He mentioned, I don't even know, to be honest. I ain't tripping. If they don't, I'm going to be good regardless. So he's not thinking about it with the contract, but is expecting that the contract or something is going to get done. So Meyers had hoped to get a deal done before Sunday's season opener on the road in New England. Due to both sides being unable to come to terms on a new contract, Meyers requested a trade, but the team denied it. Meyers remains open to getting a deal done during the season. However, it has to make sense for him. So Meyers' contract base salary is $10.5 million and a salary cap hit of $14.9 million. He doesn't have any guaranteed money remaining on his 3-year, $33 million contract. So the talk of it for the 28-year-old is that it's the guaranteed money. So there's no guarantee on this 3-year, $33 million contract. That's what's the hard part. So unless they can get something done up from here, the uncertainty of a contract moving into the start of the season is what's going to be up and in question. And I'm a little bit afraid of that. So, and Jakobi Meyers is a very good receiver. It's a very good, serviceable receiver. 4 straight consecutive seasons of over 800 receiving yards. Like, the kid can play. But it's all about the long term, and it's all about, trying to get the contracted money, the guaranteed stuff. But it is a little bit interesting because even at the age of 28, depending on that guarantee he may be eligible for, that's what's going to be hard. So, we're going to be shifting. Last piece of news. So what was interesting, and I'm not sure how people are going to feel about this for the NBA, but it is reported, and what's being heard is there's not a whole lot that's been solidified as of right now, but it is brewing up and it's getting interesting. So the LA Clippers and the team owner Steve Ballmer reportedly have been accused of circumventing the NBA's salary cap by paying $28 million to Kawhi Leonard for a no-show job. Pablo Torre, a podcaster and former ESPN contributor, reported Wednesday that the Clippers paid Leonard through a now bankrupt company owned by Ballmer. So, in the latest episode of the Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast, Torre cited a trove of internal documents from the company Aspiration, which Ballmer partially funded with a $50 million investment through his personal LLC on September 14th of 21. Later that month, the Clippers announced a $300 million partnership with the now bankrupt Aspiration, including sponsorship in the team's new arena and on the team's jersey patch. Wow, this is insane. And by the way, Leonard agreed to a 4-year, $28 million endorsement deal in April of 22 through his LLC, KL2 Aspire. The endorsement deal came 9 months after Kawhi signed the 4-year, $176.3 million contract to remain with the Clippers, the maximum allowed at the time under this NBA's collective bargaining agreement. So this could smell trouble. So I have no idea how this is going to basically be playing out. But Kawhi Leonard, especially when it comes to these so-called load managements, like, he ain't playing, he ain't showing up, and I don't know what that's going to make for Clippers fans, because that in itself, $28 million under the rug, that's usually never going to go well. It never does. And what I fear is that the Clippers, even with just that bankrupted company, I mean, it's out of business now at this point, but there's going to be some penalties involved. And again, this is just basically hush-hush money. And that's all it really is. And Kawhi, who's had issues with injuries, hard to stay on the court, like this is really going to hurt them pretty bad. And I don't know. I think in multiple scenarios, it really is going to change the landscape and how that they deal with these collective bargaining agreements, because you just can't do that. You know, they are going to, like, again, they thoroughly look at this stuff. And whatever comes out is going to be quite an interesting topic and pretty an interesting story. So I'm not sure how this is going to play out with a lot of these bodies of the NBA, but yeah, Steve Ballmer and company, and even for Clipper fans, when are like, the whole point is that they were trying to get a championship to the Clippers, but I think this could be well out of reach. And they weren't even in the right. They literally, not even, they weren't even in contention to like get to an NBA final. I mean, they've tried several times, but it has not worked out for them in these circumstances. So that's the stuff they really, really are paying attention to. I don't know how it's going to end up working out within the organization. There are going to be penalties up and involved, but that's just not something that you really, really, really want to get yourself up involved in. All right, that was the piece of the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the hot press.
Oh, I was looking into this. We do have our Jake's Prime predictions here at the bottom half of the hour. I got a lot of really, really good picks, and I'm comfortable with all these. Seriously comfortable with all of these. And again, I'll describe this. I'll describe it in the best way that I possibly can. So the college football weekend, again, we're going to have Wendell Davis here on Friday, and it's going to be a fun show. Really going to be talking a lot about what we saw and what we could take out of here for week 2. But there were a bunch of performances that I was really impressed with. Number one is LSU Clemson. The thing about Clemson is I was expecting Clemson to really pivot. And unfortunately, in the most close game that they could possible, Dabo Swinney just couldn't even come up with anything. And Brian Kelly really tried to learn from his mistakes in the week ones since he's been at LSU. He's had a hard time with it. But, you know, that was a great game from LSU. I think that was probably the most entertaining game we've watched, because all the rest of them, Belichick's debut did not go so sound. Alabama gets upset against Florida State on the road. Texas basically eating their words against Ohio State at the shoe. And all the performances that I really, really got out of from this college football weekend was Oklahoma and John Mateer, Michigan with Bryce Underwood and Justice Haynes. And then there's bits of DJ Lagway, but I do think the other quarterback who really shined, he was actually really something. I watched him against Boise State, was the quarterback at USF. Interesting one. Really good. But man, there was a ton. But John Mateer really impressed me. And he's going to have a big game Saturday at night in Oklahoma against Michigan. And I think that's a game I'm taking Oklahoma on. I mean, John Mateer looked completely comfortable, was slinging the ball left and right. And even for Lenore Sellers, there's a bit of flashes of Cam Newton with Lenore Sellers that I'm seeing. So it's pretty good. This is actually pretty good competition. I don't believe that we're going to see a ton of these bigger blowouts unless you're playing these quote-unquote cupcake games. So the thing is that I'm watching a lot of these players and the 5, and I'll post them up on our social media. But John Mateer, I'm buying into a lot of the stock. He's right now the one quarterback I've been talking very highly on. And it is unfortunate even for Avery Johnson at K-State because now they're down 0-2 and it's not looking great. And right now they're dealing with a situation in which right after that loss on the road in Dublin, Ireland, and after the fight between the dad and the brother, it just wasn't looking good. It was not looking good whatsoever. So that's where, to me, the performances that I really got out of this, I mean, I really do think, and even this, and I'll touch upon this too, is like John Mateer right now is my favorite. And I'm also looking at Dante Moore, looked pretty sharp. DJ Lagway got some pretty good looks up on him. Diego Pavia wasn't really too bad. But Joey Aguilar, by the way, Tennessee looked good. I mean, they weren't even playing a high competition, but Tennessee didn't look like they were phased at all. They actually looked pretty good. I was pretty impressed by that. And Carson Beck in Miami, I mean, Carson looked good. Carson was definitely leading up onto the field, but the other thing that really I took away from it was basically how Miami just took out Notre Dame. I mean, that was I couldn't even believe it. But Miami played up well. They played up to a really good stature, which Notre Dame, I mean, you would think a team that had gotten to the Natty last year could have had this thing buttoned up. Nope. Notre Dame in the crucial spot couldn't quite get the efficiency even with the run game. So that was what was the hardest part. But I thought that game with Miami, that was also another one that was a little exciting. But between LSU and Clemson, LSU got the job done. They're moving up and on to week 2, 1-0. And Clemson, they just got to find a way to get themselves right. So lots to talk about up from here. We're going to take a quick break, and then we have Jake's Prime Predictions here right after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Good to have you in, folks. We've welcomed up our new partnership with Payday Fantasy. Really excited for the new partnership that we've got. It's a lot of fun. Download it and check it out for yourself. PaydayFantasy.com. Link in the description. Promo code SNAKE for the 100% deposit match bonus of up to $100 just by using promo code SNAKE. All righty, folks. Well, we've waited all season long for this, and I'm so happy that we're kicking this off. And for those that are right now currently watching up, we know that we're up here up on YouTube and Roku in order to see up all these picks. I'm really excited about all of them. So without further ado, in the 2025 NFL season, it has officially kicked off, and it's time again for Jake's Prime predictions for 2025 Week 1.
Let's turn it up. It's Jake's Prime Predictions.
Cowboys at Eagles.
So the Cowboys right now are the underdog at 8.5. And listen, I looked at all these bet lines. I was not a big fan of this one. I really do like the Cowboys as the dogs barking up against Philadelphia here in this game. Listen, the Cowboys may have traded away Micah Parsons, but there is truth to this. Micah would either have been the hard timer in the locker room, or either that or the Cowboys just know that they're going to be losing a really good piece. A generational type talent they know they traded away. However, they know they got the deal done at least to get that out the way and prepare for Philadelphia. The only thing about the Eagles, and what I don't like about this bet line, though, at 8.5, they are still trying to figure out the corner, too. Obviously, Quinyon Mitchell, he's solidified. Cooper DeJean, I really do like, even with Reed Blankenship, but they got Jacorian Bennett. I don't know what he will look like, but we know that in the last few matchups, here's also a difference maker. Since Dak has been in the league, what most people aren't talking about is Dak against Philadelphia is 9-4. And that's one of the biggest takeaways up from here. Dak right now, he's not going to be distracted. Neither will the Cowboys. They get the deal done up from here. I'm taking the Cowboys to cover and win on Week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles, 30-27.
Chiefs at Chargers.
Neutral site game, of course, in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Give me the Chargers, baby. 3.5 is the line. I'm taking the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh on a neutral site, even though with them being the home team. Listen, a lot of people obviously are going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's fine. But I will say this, though. People that think that the Chiefs are just going to basically steamroll the Chargers. You know, in the last few matchups in these games have been decided by closest to 7 or less. Last year, when Kansas City swept the Chargers, the first week, they only beat them by 7. And the last time they played, they only beat them by 2. The Chargers are feisty. They also addressed a couple of defensive players, which Jesse Minter in 1 year turned this Chargers team from a bottom 5 defense into the number 1 scoring defense in the league. It was impressive. I think Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers are fighting for vengeance. They can smell blood in front of them. I think the Chargers win and cover 24-23 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Give me that stuff I like with what I've seen there from the Chargers and what they're looking like with their culture.
Cardinals at Saints.
Okay, so this one here was an interesting game to me. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals -6.5. This defense, by the way, last year, capitalizing on what they were last year, they really did well with their defensive front. And that's Jonathan Gannon's ID that you're seeing up and onto the field. They addressed up a couple pieces. They got a couple of offensive weaponries that they've addressed, even with the offensive line. But this is the year in which Kyler Murray and MHJ need to figure out their chemistry. That is what's going to be the biggest takeaway up and into this game, but they got a pretty good one against the Saints. I'm going to take the Cardinals here on the road to win in New Orleans, to win 27-17 and cover the points.
Dolphins at Colts.
I know what a lot of you are thinking, taking the Miami Dolphins here up and into this game, but I'm actually going to go the opposite. I think that this is a trap game in itself. I'll take the Colts -1.5. Listen, the Dolphins, what's going to be hard about this game is that their left tackle, Teron Armstead, retires. How are they going to figure out that left tackle spot? They're built for speed. Everybody knows that. But the Colts, though, have a very good physicality. Even if they couldn't figure out quarterback with Anthony Richardson. Daniel Jones is a go. And again, I think some of the stuff, and this happens with week ones all the time. You're going to see some unexpected things happen in this week. I did not like this matchup at all. This is a stay away game for me when it comes to the Colts and the Dolphins. But I will, if I were to pick, I'm going to take the Colts at the -1.5 and cover this up at home. That's the best part. If you were in Miami, I'd take Miami, but I'm taking Indianapolis. I think this is going to be a bit of a trap, considering the fact of how Tyreek Hill is going to come back from injury. How they're going it's this Miami team going to be physical is going to be the question. 23-20, Indy covers. I'm going to take them and the point.
Raiders at Patriots.
I'm loving what I'm looking at when it comes to the New England Patriots at home. I'm going to take a -2.5. Listen, TreVeyon Henderson is going to be such a beautiful get when it comes to fantasy owners, because watching him up and into the preseason is what New England and what Mike Vrabel's all about. Instill the run. Get some speed in this puppy. And they're going to be built for paddling in the trenches. The Patriots, and what I've noticed, and even when you look at somebody's identity, that is where you come into grips, where Mike Vrabel's defense from top to bottom, first all the way to sixth-string linemen, these guys are going to fight. And that's where the culture is really going to change up for the Patriots. As much as we know this with two different coaches, Pete Carroll and with Mike Vrabel, I think that could be an exciting game to watch, but I am going to take the Patriots at home with Pete Carroll on the road, figuring some stuff out. Ashton Jeanty, the rookie, running the football, and Geno Smith. I think it will be a fun game in itself, but I'll take the Patriots to cover the points at home, 27-23 against the Raiders. Okay, so in this game between Pittsburgh and the Jets, there we go.
Steelers at Jets.
Had to find our graphic up from there. But the Steelers and the Jets, I know it's a costly blow for the Jets losing Elijah Vera Tucker into week one, but I'm still going to take the Jets, who are smelling blood, against Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Listen, the Steelers have doubled down up on defense. Offensively, I don't even know what they're going to look like with Jaylen Warren and that offensive line and their run game. I feel like the Jets defense is going to be coming out with some surefire to really kind of remind Aaron Rodgers that he was a bit of the problem up in New York. But we know with Aaron Glenn, defensive fronts tend to get very physical. I think we'll see a different look of Sauce Gardner when going up and into this game. Because ultimately, your biggest components is going to be DK Metcalf and a couple of other receivers from Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, and company. I don't even know how I'll feel about Pittsburgh's weapons, but I do think that the Jets are going to run the ball, create confidence, even for Justin Fields. I mean, he looks confident. So I think that's what they're going to do. Run the football heavy, get a few short passes up and into here and there. But I'll take the Jets to cover and win 24-23 in MetLife against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Giants at Commanders.
I still love the Commanders to win this game, but I'm taking the Giants 6.5 points. Listen, against that defensive front with Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, the rookie, and Dexter Lawrence, like you're going against a beefed up front seven that you know is going to really test that Commander offensive line. Now, even though the Commanders got the deal done with Terry McLaurin, I'm glad that they did. So to me, I still view this team as a playoff team. But there are some concerns that are up and onto the defensive side because they got Jerzon Newton. He looks good, even when they moved on from Jonathan Allen. But secondaries slightly improved. But there are going to be a few holes that Washington's going to have to figure out. And with Jaden Daniels, we know he overcomes adversity. So, which is why I still have Washington to win. But I'm going to take the Giants, a new-look Giants defense, to come up away and cover with the 6.5 points. Washington wins at home 23-21 with the Giants to cover the points.
Panthers at Jaguars.
So to me, I don't trust a ton of what the Jaguars are doing, even though that they've improved in some areas. I'm going to take the Panthers plus 3.5. So they moved on from Adam Thielen, but however, they did sign back Hunter Renfrow, and he is going to look like the real deal. It's been a couple years since he's been out. He looks good. He looks healthy. He's ready to roll. And I think the other thing is that he's slightly younger than Adam Thielen. And you need to have a competent veteran receiver to help out with Xavier Legette, Ted McMillan, and even with Jalen Coker. This young team with Bryce Young, who looked better, looked competent, has a better chance at least making this happen for the Panthers. Now, for the Jags, this could be interesting. They lost a couple of their receivers, so now you've got Brian Thomas Jr., who I love, and then you've got Travis Hunter. Other receivers that you're going to be looking for, who else are you going to throw the ball to? And then Tank Bigsby in the backfield with Travis Etienne. That's going to be a really interesting and wonky game. It's another one of my stayaways, but I will take the Panthers to win and cover 24-23 on the road in Jacksonville.
Bengals at Browns.
A surefire pick that I'm confident with. I'm taking the Bengals at minus 5.5. Now that things have finally cooled over with the Trey Hendrickson deal and with Shamar Stewart, we can get back to football. Now, Cleveland is starting with Joe Flacco. So that kind of gives Cincinnati's defense a little bit of a break. As much as I love Joe Flacco, but to me, he's kind of on the tail end of his prime. He's at the tail end of his career. And Joe Burrow, this offense completely shattered offensive records. That Joe Burrow was the closest thing to MVP next to Lamar Jackson last year. And to me, I think Cincinnati is playing like they're on a mission. They have something to prove up from here. I'm going to take the Bengals 5.5 points and win and cover on the road against Cleveland 30-21.
Buccaneers at Falcons.
So many people are going with Tampa. I'm going the opposite. I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons plus 1.5. And here's the thing. People that don't know about Michael Penix, you're about to find out about Michael Penix right now. And by the way, they got a steal at receiver when it came to Darnell Mooney. Now you're starting the year off with another weapon, and you got Drake London and you got Kyle Pitts, who really has to get things going. But that dual backfield between Bijan Robinson and with Tyler Algier, you're at home and you got Baker coming to you, which we know they've got a very good offense. They've got a very good run game. Now, the defense may be younger. It may look interesting, but I think Atlanta, they really want to prove a statement against their NFC South rivals in Tampa Bay. I'm going to take the Falcons to win and cover up at home. It's going to be another one of those fun games up from there. But I think Michael Penix, you're going to start to really see him come out and play with confidence 24-23.
49ers at Seahawks.
This might make San Francisco fans feel a certain type of way, but I like Seattle at home. Another one of my favorite bets here, plus 2.5 at home. Listen, Sam Darnold, now the new starting quarterback. You've got Zach Charbonnet. You've got K9. You've also got Jackson Smith and Jigba with a couple of other weapons, including Elijah Arroyo. You also now have a very competent offensive line after they drafted Gray Zabel. The Seahawks really look like a team that's looking to win in the trenches. With San Francisco, they lost a bunch of players due to free agency and even with injuries. It's now a new look defense. This is why they've hired Robert Saleh in the first place, because they're going to have to reshape up that defense. Losing Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, they do have Diamonor Lenore, but it's going to take a little bit more than just that to at least make the defense competent. I think it's going to be interesting. The defense really is competent for Seattle. I expect them to really give Brock Purdy a little bit of hell, but at home, I'll take the 2.5 points to win and cover it 24-21.
Titans at Broncos.
Another one of the bet lines I really did not enjoy when I looked at the betting lines, 8.5. I'm going to take the Titans to cover here at 8.5. Listen, did any of you guys pay attention to that Titans defense last year? They had a lot of really good players. Jeffrey Simmons, they got a couple of other ones that really played out well. The defense is not a problem. It was the offense that they needed to get together. Now, Denver is doubling down up and on their defense with Jahdae Barron, Dre Greenlaw, and Talanoa Hufanga. Denver looked good. And even with Bo Nix in his second year, they got Pat Bryant, the young rookie from Syracuse. I've heard a lot of really good things. They gave away Devon Vele, but they've got Cortland Sutton. You've got J.K. Dobbins. You've got a healthy run game. And even with R.J. Harvey, this is going to be an interesting Denver team. But for 8.5 points, seems a lot like a reach to me. I will take Tennessee's points. Denver still wins this game 27-23 here in Denver, but I will take the Titans points to cover and kind of save your behind up from here. You'll thank me later with these points.
Lions at Packers.
All right, so the interesting game, the debut of Micah Parsons against the Detroit Lions. I'll take the Packers minus 1.5. Even with Micah Parsons, if he's in or out for week 1 with a back injury, my thing is Matthew Golden looks good. The offense is young, they're developed, and Matt LaFleur, with the way that he worked up the offense, and even with that dual threat of a run game, with now A.J. Dillon in Philadelphia, Josh Jacobs looks to be the real thing, and hopefully Marshawn Lloyd could look healthy and we'll get a chance to see snaps from him. So the Packers, to me, I really do like this. I'll take the Packers at home against Detroit. After the news of getting Micah Parsons, this Packers team is going to be loud in Lambeau. They're going to want to beat Detroit at home and start off 2025 in the right foot. 24-21, I'll take the Packers at home.
Texans at Rams.
This is actually one of my other favorite games, but it is an interesting game at 3.5. I'm going to take the Texans at plus 3.5 to cover this one. Listen, I know that Matt Stafford being back is a good thing, but how good does he feel is the question. And the Texans, they got a very good front-loaded defense that is really going to give them problem. And that's the part I think for the Rams. Alaric Jackson, he's out due to blood clots. And so you're hoping that the offensive line could really compete and could get something going, because the Rams facing against the Texans in the first week against a very tough physical defense, that is a hard ask for the Rams. And again, I think it's going to be a very competent and fun game. I'll take the Texans to win and cover on the road with that physical defense, 24-20. Rams, the next week they're going to get right, but this is truthfully a test to the Rams here up and at home.
Ravens at Bills.
So the divisional playoff matchup in a rematch at home in Buffalo, I'm going to take the Bills at minus 1.5. I think this is about much more favorable than you think amongst a lot of games on the bet lines in Vegas, because honestly, both teams look well-rounded. The Bills just got Josh Palmer, Gabe Davis, and they got Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman. They ended up getting more beefed up on wide receiver, which they needed to have depth piece in the first place. But to me, it's going to be about the run game and the defense. And Josh Allen, he's going to be slinging the ball left and right. Now, the Ravens, do have a very good secondary, adding Malachi Stark. They even ended up adding up their pass rush with Mike Green. What a steal that they ended up getting. I see this game going toe-to-toe, but I'm going to take the Bills to win and cover the points at 1.5, 27-23 on a Sunday night football game in Buffalo, upstate New York.
Vikings at Bears.
Monday Night Football kicking off in Chicago. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings at -1.5 up from here. If you guys don't know who J.J. McCarthy is, you're about to find out up from here. Now, listen, this is an interesting matchup because there is no film on J.J. McCarthy. So Chicago's really going to have to be clever up from here. They're going to have to shut down the passes. They really got to instill some pressures. I mean, the defense, Chicago, I've never really had a problem up with their defense, but Minnesota beefed up the offensive line. They got a very good dual run game that I like with Jordan Mason and with Aaron Jones. And they got back Adam Thielen with Jordan Addison's suspension. So they've got weapons. So to me, it's all about building confidence for J.J. McCarthy, but I expect Kevin O'Connell to walk into this puppy on the road in Chicago and really take it by storm for the Vikings against the Bears and win on Monday night 24-20. And that, my friends, is your Prime Predictions Week 1. I'm excited for it, guys. And we ended that off in a really, really good note. So we're right now up and on to the nick of time up right now, but I do want to say this because it was something I forgot to mention about this earlier when talking about college football. So UCLA and Nico Imaliva. I mean, I don't have to go too deep into detail, but like I said, what is changing the trajectory of college football is what you are about to see and find out. Because UCLA got pummeled in week 1. And against a team that plays real good defense. And I felt bad, but this was a reality check. And people that truthfully believe UCLA was going to play their best football, not against this team, not against a team that knows how to play physical football. That was embarrassing for UCLA. And look, I'm not trying to bash up on the program, but everybody knows. And what was what was really the icing on the cake is the fact that Tennessee with Joey Aguilar won their week and they look just fine. Utah completely pummeled them. And Nico Imaliva, he didn't even look his best. He's getting pummeled left and right. It looked competent from the first quarter, but then eventually got away from him all the way to the last 3 quarters. And you're going to find out about UCLA's program because they have not built up the relevancies in a long time. And you're in the Big Ten, in a physical, very down in the trenches conference with your Wisconsins, your Nebraskas, your Ohio States, Michigans, even with USC being as physical as they are now. Like, it could be interesting. But UCLA, and what is a testament to this, I said this about a month and a half ago on the program. When Nico transferred from Tennessee to UCLA, I already knew this was going to be a bad move because he's not about the program. You're asking price with your NIL. These coaches aren't going to give a rip. They're not, because your NIL money is based upon your own personal sponsorship. And looking for 4.5, like, in a time where you weren't even the best quarterback in the SEC. You were accounted for by your coaching staff in Josh Heupel in Tennessee. He was not the best quarterback in that conference. And by the way, they harped about having a healthier O-line, check. Having a better wide receiving core, check. Defense staying as competent even if losing James Pierce Jr., check. Tennessee looked fine. And Josh Heupel, who's a attested to this. Told you that he's not above the program. And said, we'll be fine here. We're good here. Joey Aguilar looked good. Didn't look great, but he looked good enough to where Tennessee got the win. That's the difference maker. And that's where Nico is having a reality check. You had too many voices in your ear. You didn't quite listen to the right voice. And most of all, you didn't even get your asking price of your NIL. You got way less than that. 1.75. So to tell you that, and if you think Nico is going to make UCLA relevant, good luck. UCLA has not been built like that. They've been built more to be a Pac-12 team built for speed. I mean, honestly, and I hate to say it like this, but they're kind of a testament to what the Miami Dolphins are. They're built for speed. They're the speedy Lambo, but not physical in the cold when you got to be, even against Penn State in Happy Valley. You ain't going to be facing against that. And Nico, who's faced Ohio State before in the past, got bum rushed. So you're going to find that out very quickly. And that's why a lot of these college athletes have to understand this. This is a perfect testament to why these players are not above the program. Nico was god-awful. And that's what made me feel bad, because he had too many voices in his ear. And if only he could just blaze his own trail. Like, look, I'm about to enter into fatherhood. And what I would say to my future kids is I would be able to share with you the knowledge that I have been shared. But it's up to you to blaze your own trail, because I'm not going to hold you back. I'm not going to ask for financial stuff, because then what kind of example am I setting? And that's the stuff where I held the dad accountable and even the family, because look at also what happened with his brother. Brother ended up bailing out on one program. Like, I don't know what the deal is. Like, if the family's really hurting for money, somebody should get jobs. All right? But to be closest to the West Coast, to be closest to your family, okay, that's one thing. But UCLA, you couldn't try USC. You couldn't try Oregon. You couldn't try even in the Pacific Northwest in Washington. You couldn't even choose any of those other programs. You chose UCLA, a program in which is not even built for physical football. That's the reality check. Again, I feel bad, but I'm going to be honest and real. Nico should have honestly had stayed in Tennessee. You had everything going up from there. New receiving core, competent coach, and you were a part of a very talented SEC. And you decided to walk away from all that. Unbelievable. And like I said, didn't look his best, and is probably going to have a rough break, and I guarantee you he's going to enter the transfer portal right after the season. That's what's going to happen. It's not built for it. Good stuff. Friday's show tomorrow, guys. Give me a lot of fun. Wendell Davis on Friday. We got to close out the program for all of you guys. Appreciate you guys being here tonight. Shout out to our newest partner, Fantasy. Like we said, the code is available now at paydayfantasy.com using the promo code SNAKE for 100% of the deposit bonus match to $100. Check it out for yourself, guys. Paydayfantasy.com, promo code SNAKE. Get signed up and play and build your fantasy lineup here today with all the best pick'em contests to choose from at Payday Fantasy. Get paid with Payday Fantasy. This is Jake the Snake Silva here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. We'll see you guys Friday.